Normally, it's up to Knoxville, Tennessee to talk with Tony Basilio. Today, it's in Pennsylvania. He's watching his son, who's a heck of a lot better golfer than I am, which may or may not say much. Tony, how you doing?
Oh, man, what a great day. Sitting in the park here. Just got my lovely wife off to the airport, back to Knoxville, and I'm going to sit and hang out with where I'm originally from here in the Philadelphia area for a while. But always good to talk to you, George, and always a pleasure to spend a few with you, my friend.
Same here. It has been from the very beginning of doing this with you. We're going to get into a subject that I kind of blanked on a week ago, and I should have gone more into it, and that is this NCAA infractions hearing in Cincinnati next week. Tony, there are all kinds of different theories out there about how this is going to play out. So let me just start with, what is your theory?
Based on the people I've talked to, and I've spent, I'm not going to exaggerate with you, a couple and a half hours on the phone talking to various people. Tennessee is concerned that it's, first of all, it turned contentious with the NCAA after Tennessee invited them in, showed them the books, trusted them in the process. It turned contentious. And is Tennessee going to be the latest example of don't let the fox in the hen house? Or is cooperating at the end of the day going to pay off in the long run? Danny White and Tennessee, and last week, as I was telling you on the air briefly, we had the gentleman on from ESPN who broke the story, and then we had Blake Topmeyer on, who is an SEC writer as well of repute, and both guys on consecutive days said that their belief was, and it's their job to really know this stuff, to get granular. Their belief is that Tennessee is surprised to be in the spot. Danny White believed that the remedies that Tennessee had originally ascribed to, scholarship cuts, etc., were going to be enough to win the day. The NCAA has since come back and told Tennessee, no, your remedies are not going to be enough. Now, question becomes, George, what's the sticking point? Is the sticking point an inordinate number of scholarships that becomes punitive? Or is the sticking point that the NCAA wants a bowl ban? This is where it gets interesting, because we've been led to believe, meaning we, all of us that are observers of this NCAA deal, that we're under a new charter. And as part of the new charter, the new dispensation that we're in, supposedly we don't punish current players for the sins of what went on in the past. i.e., we don't do postseason banishments anymore. My belief right now, George, is that a postseason ban in football for next year, which would mean the SEC championship game and a bowl game, are very much on the table right now.
Wow.
Based on the people I've talked to, based on the people at Tennessee and their reaction. And Danny White is leaking visceral stuff to the press, i.e., if the NCAA follows through and if they hit us with a bowl ban, we're going to countersue them. We're not going to take it lying down. We've lawyered up, and we're going to go that route. And George, I just think, I think that's noteworthy. I think that's newsworthy. I think that's highly interesting. And you got Tennessee and the NCAA playing chicken here with this hearing coming up. And there's a red herring. I want to, because I know you touch a lot of folks, I just want to remind people, the red herring here is that Tennessee's day in court is going to coincide with that of Jeremy Pruitt and also with Derek Ansley. If you follow the Jeremy Pruitt, if you follow, it's really verbal, a kid here in the park, a youngster, a baby. If you follow the if you get off in the weeds on that other deal, you're going to kind of lose the lead here. The lead is Tennessee and the NCAA. The lead is what's going to be the punishment. The lead is that it's gotten to this point. The lead is that Tennessee probably miscalculated, although hindsight's always 20/20 to be fair to Tennessee. I do know internally in this deal that Tennessee's brass encouraged Danny White when he first got there and he first hired his coach. Hey, let's take a bowl ban. Let's take a bowl ban as part of our punishment here. And Danny White steadfastly decided, no way. We're not doing that. We are not going to do that. Miscalculation, George? I don't know. Time's going to tell. Because I don't think obviously you do not want a bowl ban with your program gathering steam the way that it has here of recent.
Tony, let me ask you this. Is there any feeling amongst Tennessee people, athletic department, whatever, that the NCAA is so angry at its lot in life where they have virtually been, taken powerless, had their, knees cut out from them, that this one shot they've got to really inflict some pain, that they're going above and beyond in kind of a vengeance deal?
George, I've asked that, and the word I get is, so what? So what if they are? I mean, we're in the spot. I've asked it to several people, and that's the answer that comes back is maybe. The other side of this is, and I just wonder this aloud. You can tell me if I'm crazy. Is Tennessee in the spot right now if they'd have gone 5-7 twice, and it looked like they still had a moribund football program? In other words, they looked punished, because essentially what Tennessee did is they found a bright young coach who won despite the specter of what's been hovering around their program. And last year, when the rankings were announced, was the number one ranked team in the country when the first playoff poll was released. That was never the way, George, this thing was supposed to go. Never the way it was supposed to go.
So, Tony, I'm just cynical enough to believe that the NCAA does operate in this kind of a vindictive manner, because Tennessee's not the first school that has ever felt like they tried to cooperate and then got their you-know-what handed to them. So what is the theory up there as to what Jeremy Pruitt is going to say in the hearings?
I don't know, because I've talked to people and I say, is Pruitt going to implicate Philip Fulmer? He could really make it messy if he did. The charge that Tennessee's facing directly points back to Fulmer, and it's not the lack of institutional control, it's failure to monitor, which is a real, like when you talk to these people that follow this stuff, George, I'm way more immersed in this and I know way more about it than I want to, or thought that we were going to have to learn at this point. Because to be honest with you, I thought Tennessee was going to get through this thing relatively unscathed. But, the NCAA, you just never know when you're dealing with those folks. So the failure to monitor charge ties back to the AD. I was talking to some people close to Pruitt, and I said, hey, is Pruitt going to lay it down on Fulmer? Fulmer got his buyout. Pruitt didn't. Fulmer got his skybox. Pruitt gets a black, his name forever in the book of liars. And George, the thing that I come back to, and the thing that's said to me is that Pruitt appreciates the fact that Fulmer gave him an opportunity, but Pruitt is a wild card, because here's a guy that's probably facing a lengthy show cause, and he's the one that teeth are going to be really shown to. And if you think about it, if the NCAA is going to give Tennessee a bunch of scholarship reductions, and they're going to give him a bowl ban, which I think all that's on the table. What are they going to do to Pruitt? Are they going to give him a Donnie Tyndall-like 10-year type show cause? I mean, I don't know. They're highly unpredictable. But to your point, this is one of their real last chances to flex their muscles. Tennessee is akin to a marijuana dealer that got caught on July the 20th with a bunch of dope in their truck, and it was going to become legal to sell dope on August the 1st.
Yeah.
That's what's occurred here.
Is Fulmer a part of the hearing?
It's interesting. So he's telling people no, at least a few days ago. Would he fib, George? I mean, do you think football coaches would fib? I don't know. You guys tell me.
Well,
I'm just along for the ride over here. I think the answer is surely they've got to call him if it points back to him, don't they?
But is he not at a point where he's not going to be either a football coach or an AD in the future, where he could tell the NCAA, screw you, I have no reason to come to this witch hunt?
That's right. And they don't have subpoena power. But here's the thing. If Tennessee says to him, hey, we need you to go in there and say you didn't know anything, he has to do it, doesn't he, at that point?
Yeah, that's a different can of worms.
Right.
Excuse me.
No, the allergies are bad, man. Here, there, and everywhere, George.
Oh, man, do we ever.
Here, there, and everywhere. Allergy season.
I have a mic.
Okay, there it is.
I have a mic. I don't think it's on.
No, you're good. We got you.
No, you're good, man. I'm hearing you loud and
Sorry
clear
about
here.
that.
You want to send it to
You're
Kelly?
fine.
Yeah.
No, I'm not hearing anything, though. That's the reason I'm asking what I'm asking. So let me try this. Yeah, now I can hear. Tony, so at this point, if Pruitt were to go in and say, look, who's kidding who? They knew, they approved, they were part of this, then what?
Great question. And I can't answer that. I'm not with the NCAA. Great question. If that occurs, then it's going to be Tennessee's word against his. The problem Pruitt has is he was such a stupid, sloppy cheater. I mean, George, at the end of the day, this guy is forever going to be a laughingstock in a world full of jokers. I mean, let's face it here. You ever heard of a guy getting his babysitter and his wife implicated in NCAA cheating? I mean, next thing what's the next thing you're going to tell me? He was, I don't know, like on the side of the road paying players in front of like NCAA agents or the press, or I mean, what did this guy do? You know what I mean?
Let me try it.
When you're using your babysitter, George, when you're using your babysitter to drop money on players, isn't that getting a little too close to the flame? I mean, you don't think she's going to walk around and go, God, hey, I know Jeremy. You do? You know Jeremy Pruitt? Oh, man. In fact, you see that guy out there? I gave him $10,000, like whatever the money is, whatever it was. I paid him. Some 22-year-old girl. I mean, what in the world are we doing here, Jeremy Pruitt?
Tony,
but that's what we're talking about, and only at Tennessee does that go on. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Up there, is there a belief that they should have at least paid him some of the money to ensure that what would not come out is the university knew, he knew, they knew, who's kidding who?
No. I think, first of all, fans were starting to refer to this place as Buyout U, because there were so many people on the payroll at one point from buyouts that there was such a fatigue around it that most Tennessee fans at the time were in lockstep agreement that you don't give the guy a dime, especially when he risked the brand, the school, the whole deal, the way that he did, and put it at such odds. The guy was just reckless and silly. And so, short answer, no. Now, today, hindsight's always 20/20. Are there people out there saying that? I haven't heard any, but I'm sure, George, there are some. But no, working in public opinion as I do, that is not a sentiment I come across.
Okay, I feel like I've asked everything that's the off the field, the infractions meetings. Kelly, I know you've got some football stuff. Fire away.
I do, but I was going to ask Tony about this. Let's go back to this one thing, because he said that the NCAA might crack down on them and take them away from, postseason appearances. What does that do anything to recruiting, or are we into a spot now in college football where kids, it doesn't really matter to kids if they're getting the NIL money or if they're getting certain things? Does it really matter to kids if you get, say a bowl ban or say things taken away? Does that really have an effect on the kids that you're recruiting? Do you think that has an effect?
Kelly, my sense of that is kids today care about how much money they're going to make and how much exposure I get for the next level and what kind of coaching I'm going to get because I want to play professional football at these SEC schools. And so from that perspective, I don't know that it has a tremendous impact.
Yeah.
The second part of the equation, Kelly, is that say the NCAA comes to Tennessee and they say, we want 20 scholarships. See, this is the thing George was talking about before. People have lost their teeth. Because if you go to a school now and you say, hey, I want 30 of your scholarships, and you're Tennessee and you've got a war chest of, I don't know, $16 million, whatever the number is, you can go out and buy whomever you want. I mean, I just pay you an extra $40,000 to go to school. We call you a walk-on. What family's going to turn that down? And I give you $100,000, what, 150, whatever the number is, for your position. That's where we are. That's the reality that the NCAA lives in. And again, Tennessee is the person selling marijuana that got caught 2 weeks before it became legal. That's where we are. It's really silly. I mean, because the charge is over $6,000 of ill-gotten funds, basically. Guys, what can you do with $6,000 in the NIL space these days? Buy a football manager? I mean, what does $6,000 buy you today? I'm just asking for a friend here.
Let's
think about that. What kind of player are you going to buy? Like me? I run like a 9-second 40. Okay, and I'd probably what would I play for you? I don't know. Maybe on a really bad team, maybe I'd be your like wide receiver. I wouldn't be open, but I could probably just get off the line maybe every other play.
Like George talked about too earlier with Coach Fulmer, when he's not going to coach anymore, he's not going to be AD anymore. If he just says, screw the NCAA, does that kind of tell everybody, hey, yeah, I was probably involved and I don't want to talk? Is that what that means?
Or it could mean, hey, screw the NCAA. I just don't feel like fooling with you people because you're insignificant.
Right.
I think if Tennessee asks him, Kelly, to go, I think he almost has to go. They still furnish him with a box.
Right.
They still furnish him with a parking pass near the stadium. They paid him his buyout, and they really shouldn't have paid him his buyout. Now, both the people that I talk to in the press that are steeped in this stuff, Blake Topmeyer and the fellow from Sports Illustrated who broke the story, both say that it's an interesting point that Tennessee brought him to the press conference the day that they announced scorched earth on Jeremy Pruitt and all that he had done. But yet they trotted Fulmer up there and gave him his victory lap, which was really, 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 looking back on it, not a good idea. And they also think that it probably wasn't a good idea to give him his buyout while you gave Pruitt his buyout. You would not give Pruitt a dime. That looks I don't know if suspicious is the word, but it doesn't look like good business.
Right. Right. Well, okay. Well, I appreciate those. Let's talk a little football. I know we talked about Hendon Hooker the other day. I watched a little thing Peyton's got on the clock, him and his dad and Eli. And Hendon Hooker seems like a great kid. He really does. He seems like a great kid. He's getting there with his rehab. Is there anything different that you've heard from? It looks like, to me, it sounds like he's riding up the draft board a little bit. I think he's probably – I don't know about the Anthony Richard and the Will Levis kid. I think he might be third. I don't know if that's the way it will go because of his injury right now. But have you heard anything different than what we talked about last week with Hendon?
No, other than the thing the NFL loves about him are those intangibles you talk about.
Right.
Which is, I got to be able, I'm looking for somebody to run my franchise and maybe play their way into becoming a franchise type player. But even at that, if I'm going to spend the capital of a draft pick in the first round, in the first, let's say 25 picks, that's what you're talking about right now. I've got to know that this person's a solid citizen, somebody that's going to work hard, somebody that's humble. And I'll just tell you this, that staff at Tennessee, they love, and I mean love, Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
People in this community love that young man. I'm talking about a guy who is a real team leader. And the other thing I like about him behind the scenes, he wasn't afraid to call guys out, which from a quarterback perspective, that's your football team. But you also need your quarterback to behave a certain way. Quarterbacks can't act like fools off the field. That just doesn't work for me. Can't act like wide receivers. You know, Kelly, I mean, I hate to put it that way, but they can't behave like wide receivers.
No, you're absolutely right. You're the leader of the team, and it seems like that, he's everything you want in a quarterback. Maybe it's a situation where he goes to a team that's got like a established guy that he can sit behind for a year or two if you're worried about his knee or worried about his health. Maybe that's a better situation for him to go to.
I think that's right. And from Tennessee's perspective, Tom McShay had a mock the other day. And in the mock, it had, and I don't have the teams nor the places, okay? But it has Darnell Wright, Hyatt, Hooker, Tillman, and Byron Young being drafted in the first 35 picks. Now, if that occurs, I will make the case that all of those players, not one, not two, not three, not four, all of those players are there as a result of being coached by the staff of Josh Heupel. Now, you don't think that's pretty strong in recruiting, do you? Look, I took these guys. Darnell Wright was a five-star kid coming out of high school, but he was pretty aimless. Under the other staff, he was never going to get there, and I mean never, to where he's at. And I think he would probably tell you that. Hyatt's a guy, when they got there, who was basically an obscure wide receiver. He was obscure coming into the season. Played his way into a day 1 or 2 pick. Hooker, same kind of thing. Hooker was, as we've talked about, kid who didn't go on the field. He was cold his last game at Virginia Tech, and people were like, what in the world is this guy doing here, and who is he? Tillman, kid from Las Vegas, Nevada, thought to be, a little bit step slow, whatever it is, but he's got functional NFL speed, and he's a big, strong kid. He's going to be a real nice player at that level, but he comes onto their radar because of being under Heupel. And then Byron Young is probably the guy that would have been the most likely to be in this spot anyway, because he has physical tools and he was a great junior college rush end. But at the same time, he really benefited as well from just being in that environment and that atmosphere last year.
I gotta step in because we're about out of time. Unbelievable interview, man. Some great stuff. Thank you as always. Safe travels back to Knoxville.
Hey, guys, always a pleasure. Thank both of you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.